Okay. Well, it's 7 o'clock and it's good to see everybody. So call to order this regular meeting of the Mount Pleasant City Commission this February 22nd, 2021. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Chris, can you take the roll?
Sure. And just a reminder, as is our current practice, each commissioner will have to state their city, county, and state that they're located in. Commissioner Tolis.
City of Mount Pleasant, Isabella County, State of Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Ronan.
City of Mount Pleasant, Isabella County, and the great state of Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Simon.
State of Michigan, Isabella County, City of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you. And Commissioner Gillis.
Mount Pleasant, Isabella, Michigan.
Thank you. Commissioner Elsager.
Mount Pleasant, Isabella County, Michigan.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
City of Mount Pleasant, County of Isabella, State of Michigan.
Thank you. And Mayor Joseph.
I am in the city of Mount Pleasant, the county of Isabella, and the state of Michigan.
All are present and accounted for.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. And tonight we do have two presentations. And the first is about the Rural Order Adult Mobile Care. And I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Public Safety, Paul Loria, to introduce our guests. So.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, we can hear you. You can go ahead. Oh, you can't.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay.
Thanks. I have the pleasure of introducing our two guests tonight that are involved in the Rural Older Adult Mobile Care Program that is through Central Michigan University's College of Medicine. The coordinator for the ROAM program is Myra Van Sickle, and present is Dr. Reddy, who works for McLaren as an American board certified in internal medicine, specializing in endocrinology and metabolism. So I'm also very pleased that our fire department participates in this program. And I want to give special acknowledgement to Dr. Wilkerson, who assisted our fire department in taking up this special service. So without further ado, I turn it over to Ms. Van Sickle and Dr. Reddy.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. I'm not sure if you've given me the ability to share, but I do have a slide if that's okay, or if it's possible. If not, we can just talk on the subject. As described, I am the coordinator for the Rural Older Adult Mobile Care Program through Central Michigan University College of Medicine. I have Dr. See-Through Reddy with me also. He's one of our directors. He's also the chair of the Discipline of Medicine here at Central Michigan University. And our other director, Dr. Jyotsna Pandey, is a professor of pathology here at CMU College of Medicine. And she is also a director. Dr. Reddy is also our physician that sees patients through our program. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Reddy to speak with you about how Rome Care came about and why.
Great. Thank you, Myra, and thank you to all the commissioners for giving us this brief opportunity to tell you about the program. This is one of several projects that we're doing at CMU, College of Medicine. A couple of projects looking at keeping the elderly well another one preventing falls in the elderly. And in between, it was politically incorrect to call somebody elderly. So the correct term now is older adult. So this newest project is called Rural Older Adult Mobile, or ROAM, Care. And the idea was that many seniors and older adults in central Michigan area are isolated physically or socially and not actually accessing medical care. So they end up using healthcare as an emergency. They fall and break a hip, or they get pneumonia, get admitted. And it would be wonderful if you could kind of get them into the healthcare system, someone to manage their healthcare conditions, et cetera, and essentially prevent them, keep them well and prevent them from getting into emergency situations and admissions to a hospital. And this is it's a win-win because the insurance company, government, Medicare saves money, as well as the cost of quality of life, et cetera, is also improved for the patients. So initially we talked about using a van that we had at Central Michigan University, a mobile health van, to actually go to the patient's neighborhood or home, have them come to the van and see them medically in the van. But with the pandemic, that has had to be shelved, and we had to adapt. So we're now trying to provide more actually mobile tele or virtual care. So this afternoon, actually, we saw 2 new patients virtually. Myra being in their home with a Wi-Fi laptop, and I in my office, and we can communicate with the patient and do a fairly thorough assessment. So the Dr. Pandey is unfortunately busy teaching pathology at the medical school these few weeks, but she's really the brainchild and is the main driver for getting us involved. We've had great support from the commissions on aging, from Clare County, Isabella County, Gratiot County, and without all their support, I don't think we would have received the funding support from Michigan Health Endowment Fund. So this really is a demonstration project that if we can prove that we can keep people out of the hospitals and healthy, and essentially engage disengaged people into the healthcare system, get them involved in the ecosystem, that we might be able to do a good job for them. And in the long term, hopefully, either CMS, Medicare, or even Department of Health and Human Services in the state of Michigan could see and adopt this kind of program statewide. So that's in a nutshell. We do provide kind of general geriatric assessment, screenings, making sure they're up to date on vaccinations, get them into the right referral specialty centers, whether it's physical therapy, psychiatry, or urology, cardiology, et cetera, get them for lab tests, et cetera. And Myra coordinates all of their appointments and ensures that they stay on track. And we're following them periodically with surveys of their cognitive function, whether they're depression, mental status, and a whole bunch of other parameters too long to go into. But that's in a nutshell, and obviously we're open to any questions that you might have. Thank you. I think you've all received the flyer and the background material, but if you have any follow-up questions, or we've had great support, by the way, by Mid-Michigan and McLaren Central Hospital, their marketing colleagues, as well as their emergency room physicians. And Myra has had a lot of good contacts with the emergency services, so the ambulance services, who often are actually called to see these folks as an emergency, to go to their home and bring them to the emergency room. So I think the pandemic has kind of slowed us down a little bit, but hopefully we will gear up much faster speed going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy and Ms. Van Sickle. I think obviously the commission has been impressed with this program and sees how there could be a really great need in our community for these types of services. It does look like Commissioner Tolis has a question or a comment, so I'll turn it over to him.
Dr. Reddy, how would the rural older adults seek out this program?
Well, Myra has spent a tremendous amount of energy trying to publicize the program. You're right. So if they don't know about it, how do they actually access? So Myra, do you want to give a quick summary of all the different promotional aspects
Sure.
of this program?
Sure. We have run ads on 1031. It's a oldies country station, I believe. I've also sent out flyers, brochures to over 1,000 older adults in the 3 counties that we mentioned. Individually, I worked with Catch a Fire agency, which is a nonprofit agency that helps us with marketing if need be and other leadership skills. That they provided a list of local individuals for us. I've also sent information out to local churches, libraries, first responder stations, such as all the local township fire departments. And that's just to name a few that we've kind of hit. As far as contacting me, patients can contact our Rome hotline, which is 989-774-7026, and that's on all of our brochures and flyers. Or they're welcome to contact me directly by email, which is rome@cmich.edu. Once they do that, they can leave a message or speak with me directly. Then I would follow up with them with our questionnaire as far as qualifications for the program to make sure they fit into our program. And if they do, I give them the option, of course, to go ahead and schedule at that point, or sometimes they follow up with me. From there, we do scheduling of our first visit, be it in the home through, like Dr. Reddy had suggested, our hybrid model where I go in the home, see the patient like a nurse would, and then turn over the visit via WebEx to the provider to meet with them face to face. We do help provide services to transport them to our Faust Clinic here on the campus of CMU if they're not comfortable with us going in the home at this point. So yeah, to your point, 2 direct ways to contact me, either through that rome@cmich.edu to get a questionnaire to them for qualification of the program, or our hotline 989-774-7026.
Thank you
We're
very
doing
much.
a segment on WCMU, Ask the Experts. We're doing a segment on older adults care, so that this program will come up. The other thing is by word of mouth. I think we've had several actually because of one of the social workers or community workers referred a person. They were happy with the interaction and they referred other people as well. So I think that's going to work. We're talking to the emergency room people, emergency room doctors. If somebody is a frequent flyer, keeps coming to the emergency room all the time for visits, they should be kind of tagged, and it's voluntary. I mean, you can't force them, but they'll be given the information to contact us to see whether we can look after them. Now, the idea is not to take over their care, because idea is that do it for a certain period of time, and if we can find them a permanent primary care provider in their neighborhood, we will transfer the patient over to the primary care provider. So we don't want this to be seen as a competitive threat to somebody's practice. So idea is we help, and then we transfer the patient back.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Reddy and Dr. Paddy and Ms. Van Sinkle. I think this is a very worthwhile project here that you're implementing. Hopefully the COVID can get over soon and this can get off the ground. Thank you again.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does look like Commissioner Gillis has a question or a comment?
Yes, thank you. I want to echo Commissioner Tolis's appreciation to the dedication of the health of our community. And I just wanted to clarify, is that older people within Isabella County, or does it stretch farther than Isabella County?
Yeah, so it's Isabella, Clare, and Gratiot County.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And another place where you might be able to distribute flyers, if you have that capability, is at our food distribution sites. They do that on the second and fourth week over on High Street and Adams, on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And I have seen plenty of older people that go through those food distribution lines, and that might be another avenue to reach out to people.
Yeah, that's a very good thought. And I know we've had some discussions when in Alma, I think, right, Myra? They have a food distribution which was put on hold, interestingly, during the pandemic. They had to come up with a different mechanism of handing out the food. There used to be more of a community gathering, but now it's much more sterile, I think.
Yeah, if those are managed by local churches or the Commission on Aging, we are actively giving them handouts to put in those meals individually that they hand out. And we're also working with, I believe it's the Community Compassion Network. Is that the one that's sponsored through the location on High Street in Adams? We are working with Veronica, I believe is her name, that heads that up. And actually she was one of our folks that helped spearhead this program in the very beginning with Dr. Pandy. So yes, we are working with her at this time as well.
And the real shut-ins, we actually have some funding from MHEF to actually have a kind of a personal Uber or a rider to bring them to the clinic for the first face-to-face visit, if that's feasible. But we're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Well, that's really great to hear. And again, we really appreciate your work in the community, and thanks for taking your time to come to our meeting tonight and share about your program. And so
Thank you, and hopefully we'll give you an update 6 months or 9 months from now.
that would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next we do have a presentation of our Community Development Awards. And I think Jacob Kane is with us tonight from the planning.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm trying to move people around. It'll take me just a second here.
Yep, no problem.
I think I got everybody moved in.
Okay. Well, I'll hand it over to Mr. Kane for introduction to our guests and
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the 43rd year that the city has awarded a Community Improvement Award to individuals who've completed a residential or commercial construction project in the past year. We're excited that this also marks our 7th year of partnership with the students at the Graphic Arts program at Gratiot Isabella Technical Education Center. It's been a wonderful partnership over the past 7 years, and always a big thrill for us to see the students' work at the end of this process. For 2020, the projects that were selected by the Planning Commission to receive an award in the commercial category was 114 South Main Street. The owner is Keith Palmer, and he's in attendance tonight. On the residential category, the winner was 520 North Brown, owned by Melinda Wishmeyer. Ms. Wishmeyer is not able to be with us tonight, but has received her award. We have also with us tonight Andrea Langley, who's the instructor in the Graphic Arts program that we've worked with over these past 7 years. And the 2 students who produced tonight's awards Annalie Bennett and Caroline Brown, and we thank them for their efforts.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate our two winners this year, and if you guys would have any like to say anything to the commission or the community, please feel free.
I'll just say, thanks so much to everyone at the city. The city's been just super supportive. And it's been just really great to work with you guys, and just excited to do more projects and continue to improve things. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. And I guess for those that are listening, this is the commercial winner, and this is a building on Main Street, right in between Michigan and Broadway. And this was this year's winner, and you can see the winter decorations there on the windows. And then this is the residential winner, which is a new house development that is on Brown Street, near Palmer, across the street of Palmer, but you might recognize it more closer to Brown and Pickard near Bell Tire. So, unless, is there any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Gillis.
Yes, I want to congratulate Mr. Palmer and Ms. Wishmeyer, and thank you for improving our community. And also to our two students who made those beautiful portraits of the winners. Thank you, Annalie and Caroline. I appreciate you making such beautiful portraits of those winners. Thank you.
Okay. Well, congratulations, everyone, and thank you for your work and your dedication to our community. Okay. Okay. And at this time, I'd like to ask the commissioner, do we have any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay. Seeing a lot of head shaking to the no direction. And so at this point, I will open up our first public input, and this is to be on agenda items for the evening. And so if you're joining us by Zoom, you can go to the bottom of your screen and hit the raise hand button. And if you're joining us by phone, you can hit *9 and I will recognize you for public comment. And I just ask that you state your name and your address. Manager Ridley, did we have any emailed comments on agenda items this evening?
No, Mayor, we don't have anything on agenda items yet.
Okay. And I don't see any hands up in our attendees this evening. And so at this time, I will close the public input on agenda items, and we will move on to our receipt of petitions and communications.
Under this section of the agenda tonight, Mayor, you have the ongoing report on pending items. You have the January minutes of the Planning Commission, the November minutes of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and unfortunately a resignation from Mr. Jeffrey Fisher of our Parks and Recreation Commission because he will be moving out of the city. And I should mention that late this afternoon, we did receive 3 communications. Actually, our Downtown Development Director received them from Ed Zabrowski, Tom Rudert, and John Devine regarding clearing of the streets in the downtown area. And since those items aren't on the agenda tonight, what I would like to do is take an opportunity for the staff to follow up with those 3 individuals tomorrow to try to answer the questions that they might have, to see if we can address their concerns, and then share the results of that with the commission. So we will follow up with those individuals tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Manager Ridley. And then at this time, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent calendar this evening? Okay. So at this time, I'll ask Manager Ridley to give an overview of the consent calendar tonight.
Okay, the items under this section include, we are recommending approval of the minutes of your regular meeting of February 8th. We have 1 bid for you this evening, and that bid is for the project of the mill and resurfacing of the Department of Public Safety parking lot. And in this case, we had 2 responsive bidders, and we're recommending the approval of the low qualified bidder, which is Central Asphalt, for a cost of $74,652 to complete that project, which is below the budgeted amount that we had. Also tonight, we're asking you to confirm another adoption agreement with the Michigan Employee Retirement System. You'll recall back in January, you approved confirmation of the documents for our defined benefit programs. And since that time, MERS has gotten back to us and requested that we provide the same documentation for our deferred compensation programs, which are outside of the defined benefit programs. So, and again, the goal is the same, to make sure that everything is properly documented so that they can be administered efficiently. And like before, the plans provided in your packet do not change any of the current provisions of the programs. They merely document the current administrative practices of MERS and anything that may be in our union contracts. So we're recommending you authorize the Finance Director, Marianne Kornexel, to sign those documents just like she did before. Also tonight, the Planning Commission has recommended that Corey Friedrich continue as the crossover member between the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals for this year. As you know, Corey has done that crossover position for a number of years, and the Planning Commission would like to recommend his continuation for this year. So we're recommending you formally accept that recommendation. And then tonight, we're asking you to set 2 public hearings. The first public hearing would be on March 8th, and this ordinance change that we're asking you to set a public hearing on would update our water ordinance to implement the state required residential cross connection program. We've been doing cross connection inspections for years for commercial and industrial properties. And those are done to protect the municipal water supply from any backflow into the system. And the state requirement extends those inspections to residential areas now. So in order to be able to effectively do that, it requires an update to our water ordinance. So we're recommending you set a public hearing on those changes for this evening. Well, set the public hearing tonight. The public hearing would occur on March 8th. The second public hearing we're recommending would not occur until March 22nd, because that is a text amendment to our zoning ordinance. And this text amendment was unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission, and it would allow for ground level residential under certain circumstances in both the downtown district and the south part of Mission. We discussed this item as part of our 2019 housing study last year. And basically it would allow the back part of the buildings to be used for residential purposes in a mixed use case. So we're recommending you set the public hearing for March 22nd on that text change. And then lastly, under the consent calendar is approval of payrolls and warrants.
Thank you, Manager Ridley, and recognize Commissioner Tolis.
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, please.
Okay. And Commissioner Alsager?
And I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar as presented. Any discussion? Commissioner Gillis?
Yes, I do have a question or just an observation about the ordinance for the cross connections, that if a inspector were to go into a residential home and find repairs or requirements that had to be made, the ordinance is written that that would be at the expense of the customer or the homeowner or landlord. And if there is any areas that we could find grants or monies that might help with the improvements that have to be to the property owner.
We could certainly look for those potential grants. These are generally in a residential situation. They're generally for things such as like irrigation systems. So I'm not sure how much grant money would actually be available to assist with that. But we can do a quick look to see if any other municipalities have had any success with that as they've implemented these.
And would the HODAG funds be available to be used for that?
Potentially. Generally, those HODAG funds have been used in situations where they improve the exterior of the property to protect the neighborhood. But because this is potentially protecting the water supply, Commissioner Gillis, that might be a possibility. We would need to do a little bit more checking into that to see if that would be possible.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tullis?
Sorry, I didn't take that down.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, with no other hands up at this time, we'll go into a roll call vote to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Commissioner Elsager,
Aye.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher,
Yes.
and Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
All right, great. Okay, next on our agenda is item number 11, which is to consider additional drain easement to the Isabella County Drain Commissioner for Mission Creek. And I'll hand this over to Nancy.
Thank you, Mayor. You'll recall last, I think it was September, the City Commission approved an easement to the Isabella County Drain Commissioner through the Mount Pleasant Center property that is owned by the city into just east of Crawford Road. And that easement will allow the Drain Commissioner to do a project which will allow for the upsizing of the culverts at both Bamber Road and Crawford Road to enlarge the storm drain capacity in that area. And it also includes the removal of the non-functioning dam at the Mount Pleasant Center. And at the time when we recommended this in September, we mentioned that it may be advantageous to the Drain Commissioner to extend that easement further to the east all the way to the city limits. So it would go through the Mission Creek Park to make sure that the drain was appropriately handled as it goes through that park area as well. And since that time, our engineering department and director Jason Moore have been working with the Drain Commissioner, and he has confirmed that that extension of the easement would be extremely helpful for the management of that drain. So the city attorney has reviewed the document in your packet for the additional easement to extend that further. And as mentioned in the memo, he's confirmed that since it's not transferring ownership of the land, it's just providing an easement, that the commission has the authority to grant that easement, even though it's in parkland. So we're recommending that you authorize the mayor to sign that easement as presented this evening.
Commissioner Ridley and Commissioner Elsager.
I move to authorize you, the mayor, to sign the appropriate documents for a drain easement across Mission Creek Park as presented.
Okay, and Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the mayor to sign the authorizing documents for the Mission Creek easement. Commissioner Tullis.
I will not be supporting this tonight. I didn't support the last easement because I don't feel we should be doing easements or spending any more money, even though some of it is grant related on this property, until we get the title cleared up on this property. Thank you.
I just have a point of information. This easement is actually to the west of the Mount Pleasant Center property. Isn't that correct?
This easement that we're recommending tonight is to the east of the Mount Pleasant Center property. It's on the other side of Crawford Road.
This doesn't extend to the regional property.
No, the easement that was approved back in September went through the regional center property, Commissioner told us. This one is just from Crawford Road east to the city limits through Mission Creek Park.
Okay, I see it. Excuse me. Thanks for the clarification. I just looked at the engineering on it. Okay. I was thinking it was the same one. That's all.
Commissioner Gillis?
Yes, being that this is going to be a 100-foot easement, I'm assuming that's from one side of the bank to the other side of the bank of the creek. There is not going to be any impediment to accessing that creek at the park for any reason.
No, it won't have any impediments to access. The only impediments we may have in the future is if we wanted to put in any types of bridge work, we would need to have approval from the drain commissioner to do that, to make sure that we're not having a negative impact on the drainage. But as far as individual pedestrian access or residents having access to that creek, they will certainly still be able to do that. There won't be any fencing or anything like that put up.
Okay, good to know. And right now in that area, there is, when you go up by the bathrooms and take the trail towards the northeast, it goes down a cliff or a hill, and there is a bridge there, or there was a bridge the last time I was there. I'm not sure if that's still intact. Do you know if that's still intact?
I think that bridge was severely damaged during the flood of 2017, Commissioner Gillis, and I don't know how intact it still is. But that's certainly one of the things we will work with the drain commissioner on as the drainage work is done, to see if there's a way to shore that up and make it safe again, or if other additional work is done, we will certainly look into that with the drain commissioner.
Great. Because I would like both access to both the south side and the north side of that creek. And for my recollection, that is the only bridge that goes over on that side. So it would be nice to either shore it up or make sure that it's stable enough that pedestrians and community members could use that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I have to be honest with you, I can't guarantee you tonight that we will be able to do that, but we will certainly work with him to see what possibilities we have.
Okay, thank you.
Without any other hands, I think we can go to a roll call vote on approving the signing of the authorizing documents for the Mission Creek easement with the Isabella County Drain Commissioner.
Okay. Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolis,
Yes.
Commissioner Elsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher,
Yes.
and Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
And then next on our agenda is item number 14, which is to consider confirmation of appointment of city clerk.
Yes, I am excited about this agenda item, but probably not as excited as Chris Saladin and Marianne Cornexel are, since they've been filling in this role. But as you know, our city clerk, Jeremy Howard, resigned last August to take his job in the city of Clare. And since that time, Chris and Marianne have been filling in to cover those duties, because as we told you at that time, we did not think that doing a search for a city clerk right before a national election would be good timing. So we held off on starting that search until early December. And we're happy to tell you tonight we've completed that search process and we've extended an offer of employment to Ms. Heather Bauk. And Heather comes to us from Delta Township, and she has worked in both the clerk's office and the assessing office in Delta Township for the last 15 plus years. So she comes to us with some great knowledge in the clerk's area. And as you know, the city charter requires certain administrative positions to be approved by the city commission. And the city clerk position is one of those administrative positions, which requires the city commission to take action on it tonight. So what we're recommending is that the city commission confirm the appointment of Heather Bauk as our city clerk, and has been our past practice. We further recommend you that you continue to authorize Chris Saladin and Marianne Cornexel as deputy clerks so that they can help carry out duties as needed. And assuming this motion passes this evening, Heather is with us on the call. And so if you confirm the appointment, Marianne and Heather will get moved into the meeting and we will officially introduce her, and Marianne can provide the public with some more of Heather's background.
I would just like to say that although Chris and Marianne might be happy to step down a little bit, I want to say, I think on behalf of the rest of the commission and the community, that you guys have done a really great job stepping in a big way in a very difficult and historical election year. And so thank you for your work. And so, yeah, definitely a round of applause. And then I will recognize Commissioner Elsager. Mary, you're muted.
Sorry. I move to confirm the appointment of Heather Bauk as city clerk and Chris Saladin and Marianne Cornexel as deputy city clerks.
Okay. And Commissioner Toles.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the appointments of a city clerk and our deputy clerks. Any other discussion? Okay, at this time, I think we can go to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Elsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Simon,
Yes.
Commissioner Toles,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher,
Yes.
and Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Okay.
And now we'll turn it over to Marianne for the official introduction. And here comes Heather now.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Commission. I'm excited to introduce Heather Bauk to you. She's here virtually with us tonight. As Nancy mentioned, she's coming to us from Delta Township with lots of years of experience in clerk and elections. She has a degree from Michigan State University in Human Resources. Currently, she holds certifications as a certified election official, a Michigan Advanced Assessing Officer, and is in the process of obtaining her certified municipal clerk designation. We are excited to have Heather joining us, and she will be joining us on our team on March 22nd.
Well, welcome, Heather, and we're really looking forward to having you join our team. And please, if you'd like to take a couple minutes to introduce yourself to the commission.
Thank you. I appreciate the nice introduction this evening. It's nice to meet all of you virtually, and I look very forward to working with all of you and serving the residents of Mount Pleasant.
I should point out, Mayor, that even though Heather's first day with us won't be until March 22nd, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, that she has made arrangements to be able to join us virtually for our special meeting on March 2nd when we have the training on parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. So she'll be able to get on the ground floor with that training just with the rest of you as well. So we appreciate her making the effort to do that.
Yes, definitely. I plan to attend.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, thank you, Heather, and thank you, Mary Ann, and thank you, Chris, and to Nancy for all the work you guys have put in, and will continue to. So thank you. All right. At this point, do we have any announcements on city-related issues and new business? Vice Mayor Perschbacher.
Yeah, I'd like to let the public know that we still have some openings available on the many boards and commissions for the city. We have an opening for the Building Authority, the Dog Park, the Downtown Development, the Historic District, the Materials and Recycling Facility, and the TIFA Board. If you're interested, you can go to mt-pleasant.org. And under the top heading, there is boards and commissions. You click on that, and on the right-hand side, all the boards and commissions will be listed, and you can click on those to see which one that you'd be interested in and apply to. Right now, we don't have a whole lot of applications. We are working through the ones that we have, but we are very interested in getting other people involved. So if you're interested in getting in and finding out what you can do for the city, this would be a great opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Mayor Perschbacher. Commissioner Gillis.
Yes, I want to thank the community for wearing masks, social distancing, and doing your part in hand washing. We have seen the counts of COVID going down, probably not as much as we want, but it is in the right direction. And I commend the community members on taking part in mitigating this pandemic and saving lives. Today you wear a mask, tomorrow you actually save a life. So I want to thank our community members for doing their part. And I also want to give a huge thank you to the many men and women that have distributed our vaccines in our community. Between the Central Michigan District Health Department and our pharmacies and our doctors' offices and our many healthcare workers, we have been able to get vaccines into people's arms and giving them the protection that they need, and hopefully to quell even more of the spread of the virus. But if it wasn't for these volunteers and these dedicated health professionals, this would have never happened in our community. We have a tight-knit community and a very active community to help each other. And also the areas of distribution, such as our airport and the Soaring Eagle Casino. I want to give a huge thank you to our airport personnel and the tribal council for allowing us to use those venues to get people pushed through. I know a few community members are still going through the health department, our seniors, but the mass majority of teachers and frontliners have been able to go to those large distribution areas and get our vaccine. And there were literally 100 people making that happen, and some of them standing out in the cold for hours at the airport. So a very huge thank you to you and our appreciation from the community that you are helping us mitigate this pandemic. And I hope everyone will continue to do their part. Thank you.
If I could tag on to that real quick, Mayor, to go along with that, Commissioner Gillis made a good point, and I would like to add the thanks to CMU, because last week, CMU helped host 2 clinics on campus and had hundreds of people go through the clinics at Finch Fieldhouse. And that was a good collaborative effort between CMU, the health department, county emergency management, and a number of other people. So we continue to spread the goodwill throughout our community, and it takes many hands to make light work in this big endeavor. So just to tag on to that, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Gillis, and thank you, Manager Ridley. Commissioner Toles.
Yes, Manager Ridley, we talked about earlier about concerns from 3 of the business people downtown on the street clearing.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly the commissioners get a report on that after Jason meets with them. And we,
yes,
the concerns were, please.
Yeah, we will. I hesitate to do this, but I think part of the issue that may be causing the current concern is the last 2 snowfalls, as far as when they've happened, have been in the wee hours of the morning. And by the time the snow stopped, it doesn't make sense for the crews to go in to start trying to clear that out, because there's not enough time to clear it out before all of the traffic starts downtown, and it becomes unsafe once all the traffic starts. So I think it may be a timing issue of when the snow ended versus us having to wait until the next evening to do the snow clearing. Because, for instance, last night, I think the snow stopped around 4 or 5 this morning. And so there wasn't time to adequately clear out and load out all the snow this morning. So the guys are coming in, I think, either at midnight or 1 o'clock this morning to get that done. So I think that's what the concern is about the timing. But we want to have those conversations with the property owners and with Jason and Matt to make sure it is that situation and see what we might be able to do about that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'll report to the full commission though.
The last event stopped at about 4, and the event before that went into 5:30, 6 o'clock. It was still stoned, so.
Yeah, so it does make it hard to get the downtown cleared out.
You don't have an open window to get that done. I can see that point. Also, I wanted to bring up one comment to the rest of the commissioners. If you drive around town and look, you'll see some of the cars that have been parked there the last couple storms that the plow trucks have gone around. Well, if you notice, the vehicles are still sitting in the same spot they were for the last 2 events, and those spots aren't being cleaned. So there's a problem there. Just want to bring that to your attention, so when you drive around, you look at that and see that it's happening.
Thank you, Commissioner Toles. I would just like to remind the community that if they're able to and feel inclined, that our food bank, our homeless shelter, and our Clothing Inc. Nonprofits, they can always use donations, volunteers, and help, especially during this trying time. I think everyone else has talked about COVID and thanking our community partners. And so, yeah, that's all I have for this evening. So at this point, without any other hands up, I think we can go into public comment on non-agenda items and city-related business. So if you are joining with us by phone, you can hit *9, or if you're here with us by Zoom, you can hit the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Manager Ridley, did we have any emailed comments on city-related issues?
No, Mayor, no email comments have come in.
Okay. Don't see any hands up, and this actually reminds me, I ran into a community member earlier this week, and she wanted to thank the commission for supporting our parks, especially the new paving down at Island Park and the exercise equipment down there. And I was happy to tell her that we had supported that with some more monies at our last meeting, and I meant to say that in our announcements, but I think another tip into our parks department and staff for those things. So at this time, I think we'll recess for about 5 minutes. We do have a work session tonight to talk about our goals and objectives for work sessions for the upcoming year. and to draft a work session schedule. And so,
Mayor, before you go, yeah.
Yep, before I do that, I do see that we have a member of the public, a Wallace. And so I will recognize Wallace for public comment. I just ask that you state your name and your address.
Wallace, you've been moved into the meeting. You just have to unmute and then you can speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. To all of you, the time that you give, especially at night, during probably some of your favorite TV shows or spending time with friends or family, I really appreciate all you do. There's an issue that's kind of dear to heart here. Being an older person and a senior, I've been around for a time, and I can admit that I had speeding tickets and but there was nothing along the line of anything criminal. I'm concerned and about local police departments, and I don't think that they're getting their due thank yous from maybe the committee, from this community. And maybe because of all this defunding that has been promoted, I can give you some information here that, for example, in England and Wales in 2010, they cut their budget of police department representatives by 20,592 fewer officers in 2017. And it resulted in 20% more gun, knife, and serious crimes. This is pretty serious to me. The homicide rate also rose 39% from March 15, 2015 to 2019. Then finally in March 2020, after they had their experience with this, they acknowledged they needed a correction and hired another 20,000 police officers back. It's not so much the hiring the police officers back, is that I don't know that they were realistic in the steps that they made in the first place. Now, some of the things about policemen, whether you know this or not, is that they don't get paid probably enough sometimes, and they don't get paid a lot. They have to work extra jobs. Well, when we're not paying them enough, or maybe even not giving them enough attention and saying thank yous or attaboy or attagirl, which I think from being a business owner, multiple businesses, being a college professor, working with a lot of people for a lot of years, sometimes just that simple thank you, great job, appreciate it, carries more weight by far. And George, you're a psychologist, so you know about things like this, but carry more weight than giving more money. But if they're working an extra job, that means extra hours. That means that they're probably not getting enough sleep. And at that point, they're maybe not at their best when they're policing their job. So I just got to notice that I got 1 minute remaining, which I didn't know if that was God coming down or but I'll honor that, and I appreciate the opportunity to voice something here of a great concern. And I hope the committee will get more involved with the police departments and thank them.
Mr. Wallace, could we get your name and address for the record, please?
My full name,
Yes, please.
Wallace Weiss, Weiss. My address is 1617 East Gaylord, Unit D.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Wallace. And it looks like everyone else in the attendees is either a staff member or soon to be staff members. So at this time, we will recess for, let's say 5 minutes and we'll reconvene for our work session. So.
Mary, you been out skiing at all, or?
Yeah, I probably could tell you it's been many days in a row.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, today I went out kind of early with, I had a daughter with me for half the day, and we had to do a little trail breaking at Deerfield, and that's hard work.
That is, but that sounds great. Yeah, actually, I just, I've been so busy that I haven't done I haven't gone out in a long time, so I actually took out my old boots and I, cleaned them all up. I put a coat of sealant on them and dug out my skis, dusted them off. So I'm motivated, but.
Well, I know by now, the outer loop has been skied all the way around.
Oh. So you broke the trail for me. Great. I'll get out there. Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to have a day where you don't work, 8 to 5.
Yeah. It's more like 8 to 8, but yeah, no, you're right. I need to, maybe one Saturday I'll take off or something. I don't know, or Sunday. I don't know.
There we go.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a little warm this week, though.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah, that'll be sticky. That won't be fun.
Yeah, sticky or icy.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Depending upon the time of day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up on the, we'll probably time to get back, but whatever. Yeah.
You guys could keep talking.
Remember, you're still live though, so everybody's hearing what you're saying.
That's right.
But if you grew up skiing on the East Coast, right? I mean, what it is you're skiing on ice, sort of, as opposed to Colorado or stuff. Because what happens is, stuff melts during the day, and then at night, and later on in the day, it freezes, and it's. But anyway, I'll be quiet.
Just to let everybody know, if you don't want your video to be engaged while we go on break, you hover over your box. Up in the right-hand corner, there's a 3 dots. So you can go to your box where your face is, and up on the right-hand corner, you see the 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, you can see there's an option that says stop video. And so you can say stop video, and then you're not on camera. It's just a black square with your name on it. Just so that if anybody wants to use that.
And Lori, you can even do it with one touch on the bottom left of your screen, right next to where it says mute.
Yeah. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, it looks like we've.
I was just going to say, speaking of that, Commissioner Tolis, I think you got muted during the break. So on your bottom left, you may have to unmute yourself, but there you go. Perfect.
Always muted.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like we have everybody back here. And so we'll reconvene here for our work session. There are basically 2 major themes to our work session tonight. One, the first, I think, order at hand is the statement of goals and objectives through the budget that sort of consolidates some of the goals from the master plan. And then the second half of our work session, we'll be talking about scheduling work session topics for at least the immediate future and through the year. And so really, I probably will hand this over to Nancy to start us off. And then I'd like to, dive deep and sort of into that goals and objectives area. So.
Yeah, and I guess just to set the stage for both of these discussions, in my mind, it's really about making sure we're heading down the right road for priorities that the commission is interested in this year. And so in the goals and objectives discussion, all of these goals that are included in those pages 2 through 4 of your electronic packet were the goals that you were approved as part of the operating budget when you approved that in 2021. The only thing we've done, other than the ones that are highlighted, which were just approved at a recent meeting, the only thing we did with those goals is we reshook them, for lack of a better word, and put them into the 5 goal categories that are outlined in the master plan instead of the what I call the old 9 vision statements. And as you know, we had always talked about transitioning to the approved master plan once it was approved, but due to the pandemic and the timing of when that happened, it wasn't approved when we approved the operating budget. So what we did is we took the goals that were in the operating budget and just placed them under the 5 goals of the master plan, and then showed you the linkage to specific objectives in that master plan so that it's easy to track what the master plan was indicating and the actual tasks that we will be doing this year to try to move those objectives forward. So I think really in this first part of the agenda, all we're looking at doing is first asking if you have any questions of that transition from the 9 vision statements to the 5 goals and the objectives. And then secondly, just one last gut check to make sure that you still are supportive of these goals, because I would hate to have staff spend a lot of time on them, bring them to you in October and have you say, oh yeah, we're not interested in that anymore. I would rather know now if anything has changed and there's anything on these 3 pages that you already know you're not interested in. And I don't anticipate a lot of those to happen, but I figured I would at least ask the question in the event anything has changed drastically in your minds. So that's what I see us doing in this first section of the work session, please.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. And then I guess for the commission, start off with any questions or comments about those first goals and objectives that are there in the packet or from the master plan. Well, I had one question that kind of popped up for me. In the first part of the master plan, one of the goals is 1.5, and it's related to like a tree planting goal or a planting program for commercial corridors and gateways. And the timing for that was sort of in the next 1 to 3 years. And so I was sort of wondering if it wasn't included in the goals for the budget. And maybe that's because you're sort of seeing that as maybe the year after, something like that. But I did sort of think that would involve the city commission at some point, because we probably have to approve some budget allotments for those tree planting programs, I guess.
Yeah, there's a number of items that are in the first couple of years of the master plan that will require some input from the city commission that aren't on this list. You're exactly right, Mayor. I guess the only thing I would mention on the tree planting is we already do have funds in the operating budget to continue our ongoing tree planting program that we do have. And although that's generally focused in residential areas, it doesn't have to be. If a commercial or industrial property applied for that, we could certainly consider planting in those areas right now as well. But you're right, that one and any others that are in that time frame are ones we would more likely look at for 2022 and the future, unless you want to reprioritize them into this year as a group.
Okay. And then another question I had was more related to the parks, and I know that they're sort of developing, plans for at least, especially like Mission Creek Park and the
Indian Pines.
Indian Pines, yep. Thank you, Lori. And so I was wondering, I didn't really see that in the budget document, and I don't think that I saw it as well in the master plan. And I actually, for some reason, I thought that came from the master plan, is that was something in there. And so I was just wondering if you'd like to comment on that.
Yeah, actually, both of those are detailed in much more specificity, actually in book 4 of the master plan. because in book 4, because of our state requirements, we have to go into much more detail on parks projects. So if you were to look at book 4, pages 50 to 53, you would see those lined out more specifically, and both Mission Creek and Indian Pines have a development plan proposed in there sometime in those next 6 years. I'm trying to scan and I'm not seeing it right off the top of my head, but it is detailed in that book 4 when those would occur.
Is that something that the Parks Department and Park staff is looking at doing this coming year, starting that process?
I don't think it started in 2021, Mayor. I'm trying to put my hands on it.
Mr. Mayor, I can jump in. The Indian Pines, the first line item in that capital plan is in 2022.
Okay.
And for Mission Creek Park, there are items listed in 2024 and 2026.
Thank you, Jacob.
Commissioner Toles?
Looking at the first page under 2.8, crack sealing and scraping, it says begin working with MDOT on potential M20 realignment as outlined in the master plan. I really don't think that city staff should waste time actually entering and trying to do that, because I don't think that's going to go anywhere. I think that on M20 and the Mission Street cul-de-sacs are just going to be a dead deal with MDOT, so I don't feel staff should waste their time on that. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Toles on that one. Rather than waste staff time, I didn't get the impression that MDOT was 100% on board with that. I think they were being kind and professional to our consultants for the master plan. So I don't see that anytime in the future happening, nor do I think it's going to be beneficial to the corridors and the business that takes place there.
I'd give you one example on that. When I was on the East EDA of Union Township there, I was on that for 11 years. We tried to put a medallion on the bridge at the entrance of on-ramp on 27, US 27 there. And we tried to put a medallion just like the city of Midland has, welcoming people to the city of Midland. We wanted welcome to the, Mount Pleasant area. And we tried for 4 years to do that and couldn't even do that, to put just a medallion on the cement part of the bridge and try to get approval for that, and couldn't do it. I mean, it was just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you weren't even changing any traffic or anything like that, or any lane.
No, it's just a round medallion that they were putting on the face of a cement bridge there off to the side. I mean.
And I can tell you, MDOT has their plates full right now, just trying to put some improvements on our roads and our bridges. I doubt if our Mount Pleasant office is going to be very interested in putting a lot of time into that, with what I know what they have on their plate for improvements and requirements to the infrastructure.
Okay.
I guess I would just mention that was one of the high priorities in the master plan, as far as at least having some of those initial exploration discussions with MDOT to talk about what the goals were of the Mission Corridor study. And I think that they were more open to it than just being nice about it in the one-on-one conversations that we had with them. And since it was such a high priority in the master plan, and with the Downtown Development Authority wanting to make Mission Street a viable corridor, I think it is worth at least having some preliminary discussions with them about the goals we're trying to accomplish, and get a better understanding of where they may or may not be now that it's in the plan and endorsed by the community. So I guess I typically don't jump in this quickly, and I apologize, but I think it's important enough to the community that I would encourage you to allow us to at least have those preliminary discussions with them to see what kind of progress that we can make this year to determine what their openness really is or is not in regard to some of those ideas. But
Yeah.
again, it's up to the commission to decide.
I would echo those same comments. I think that especially when, I know that some of the ideas that were orchestrated about the Mission Street corridor, not everyone on the commission was enthusiastic about some of those changes. But I know even like rerouting M20 has been a long desire for many community members, and it's been there a long time. And so I do think that keeping those that goal of having those conversations with MDOT is very important. And I think if we back off now, that weakens sort of our position in trying to get desirable change that we want maybe down the road. Obviously, Mission is a big part of our city, but we really don't have a lot of say in it. And so if we're not knocking on the door, I don't feel that that's productive. But I guess I would, go around to the commission and see if everyone else feels the same way. I know George has his hand up and has been patient. And so Commissioner Ronan.
Yeah, I'm puzzled. I say 100%. I mean, can you estimate the amount of cost it would be to do this preliminary work with them? I mean, I would support it 100%. I mean, if you do the preliminary stuff and you start talking to them and you get, brushed aside or something, come back to the commission and we can reassess it. But I see no reason not to. I'm puzzled. I mean, I see no reason not to start the process of the dialogue and see where it goes. But I don't think anybody expects it to be over in a year, right? I mean, it's not the type of thing that's going to happen that quickly. But is there some way of estimating the cost for doing this preliminary?
I would say the cost at this point in time is the staff time. I don't think we would be starting any studies or starting any analysis. It would be the staff time of meeting with the MDOT folks to have those initial discussions would be the cost. So it's more an opportunity cost of not being able to spend time on other projects for this year.
I'm sorry, I that's what I would have anticipated. And I'm assuming that you talk to MDOT anyway about other things, right? I mean, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I see Director Burdeza would like to say something. So,
thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind the commission and others that part of the master plan process looked at input from not only the community but some of our local partners, and so doing something about Mission Street or making improvements to that corridor was an extremely high priority for those that participated in that process. And it's also one that that the university is very keen on seeing if we can make some changes in the corridor, because their master plan in part hinges on what happens on Mission Street, and it's a gateway to the university as well as the community. So our intent is to try and find some common ground initially that both the community, the collective community, and MDOT might be able to come to consensus on some projects that make sense so that we can begin chipping away at, so to speak, the corridor plan and see which elements MDOT could support working on, at least initially, and which ones along with those that would be supportive of the community to start with. And, I think if we can get some initial projects that we have a win on that may or may not be terribly expensive, but make some significant improvements with pedestrian safety, with access to the businesses located along either side, that we can start to build on that. So that's the intent of the initial actions that you see in the goals identified here. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Commissioner Toles.
With all due respect, we spent about $150,000 to hire these consultants. And I asked them 2 or 3 times at meetings that we were at, where are you at with MDOT? Well, they looked at everything favorable. It was just a smoke screen. They didn't look at anything favorable. Then he said after the third time I asked him, he says, well, the city is probably going to have to get with MDOT. I mean, we just wasted money, people. That's the fact of it. We have no jurisdiction on Pickard Street and Mission Street. And they're not going to let you shut down a lane on each side to put angle parking or put cul-de-sacs in or any of this other stuff. There's so much traffic that goes down that street now, you can't do it. You can't do it. Wait till the COVID's gone and school's going again. You can't even get from one end of Mission to the other end of Mission. And you expect to put angle parking and shut 2 lanes down or put cul-de-sacs? It's ridiculous. If you want to have staff go over and talk to them, by God, do it. But you're just wasting time from other things that we can do because they're not going to give you the jurisdiction to do a damn thing. That's the bottom line of it. Just face the facts. You're wasting time and wasting money.
I respectfully disagree. I do think that it's important to keep those conversations going. I know that Commissioner Toles and Commissioner Gillis were critical of some of the plans that might have been included as potential ideas in the master plan. But if anything is changed with that corridor, I think it's our place to be a strong voice for our community and what our community wants. There's obviously no guarantee that we will be successful on every idea, but if we don't advocate for what our community wants, then I don't think we're doing our jobs correctly. So, Commissioner Gillis.
Yes, I am interested in the M20 being rerouted, the ring road. That is one thing that I think that maybe MDOT would be able to give some thought to. But as far as boulevards and reducing to 2-lane down Mission, I think that's a pipe dream. I don't think that'll ever happen, nor do I think it's good for the corridor. But I think we have the votes you have the votes anyways. So,
well, Commissioner Gill, I think your input is, the input of, even if the prevailing opinion is not one that you're supportive of, I think your input is valuable from both yourself and Commissioner Toles, because it leads possibilities for ideas to generate. So, Commissioner Ronan.
Yeah, I've heard these comments so many times. Is there some way to get, I'm sick of wasting my time. Is there some way to get someone from MDOT, talk to MDOT and get someone to talk to us or something? Because everybody tells me what MDOT wants. I've not seen a single person from MDOT come here. Can that be the preliminary thing? And just kind of talk to them and say, hey, what are you willing to, and then come back to the commission or something? Because we waste so much time on this and it doesn't go anywhere.
We can certainly do that. MDOT was involved in the discussions when the public was involved in designing those, and Jacob and Bill and the consultant had follow-up meetings with MDOT. But yeah, that's the first thing we would have, is to talk to them about, now that the plan has been approved, here's the goals, here's some of the ideas, and get a feel for their openness to it. So we could certainly have that initial conversation and report back to you.
Yeah, and maybe even if we could have someone, I'm not trying to be controlling here, but maybe if we could even have someone from MDOT at least, or have a discussion with them or something, or a work session, or I don't know, whatever. Because we keep hearing about what they say, what they don't. It's so much easier just to ask people than to talk about what everybody thinks I don't know.
Well, and part of the challenge, I think, is MDOT may be supportive of the goals, but when you get into the specifics of how to get it done, they are going to be less likely to publicly endorse something without having done the analysis of it. So they may say, yeah, we support the goals, but the specifics of how we would do it in the analysis, I would doubt that they're going to publicly support without having some more work done on it.
Nor would we expect them to. I'm not suggesting that they endorse. our plan, or they come up with details about what we're going to do. I mean, obviously they'd have to do their own analysis. I get that, but at least coming up with the idea that yes, they're interested in doing something. I don't. Anyway, I spent too much time talking about this. I'm going to be quiet. It's over and over.
Right. I think that I think I agree with Manager Ridley's assessment. At this time, this should probably be handled more by staff, and before it comes to more of a in the public work session or to a meeting. But I think what's important right now is from us. It looks like we have Commissioner Ronan, myself. I've seen a lot of head nodding from Vice Mayor Perschbacher. And so it seems as if the general consensus on the commission is still that one of we want to encourage those talks with MDOT. And if I'm incorrect, please interrupt me. Okay. So, but I do hear the concerns, and obviously it's been a long concern in this community by getting progress on M20. So, Commissioner Toles, I see your hand is up.
I just want to make one more comment. I agree with Commissioner Gillis on M20 trying to create a ring road. But, I've been in business here. I've lived here since almost 60 some years. And the only thing that's happened to Mission Road and Pickard Road is it's been widened. That's it. And I agree with Commissioner Ronan. We're wasting a lot of time. We need to get somebody from MDOT in here. But the whole problem is you never get anybody in the hierarchy of MDOT. You get an engineer that comes here and, oh, this sounds good, that sounds good. And then when it comes down to reality, we spend all the time to do the work like this master plan, and it just gets blown out the window. So, I mean, let's try to do something realistic. M20 might be that, to do that ring road, but you're not going to get cul-de-sacs and angle parking on Mission Street is what I'm trying to say. That's the point I'm trying to make, In M20, something needs to be done with that. Definitely, we need a ring road there. We've needed it for the last 30 years, but.
Okay. Getting back to the goals and objectives, are there other questions, comments, things that need to be included? Okay. Nancy, I would ask, are there items that you're looking for more direction on some of those objectives? Okay.
Oh, not at this point, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Pete, I see your hand up from last time.
Yeah. Oh, I had one question, please, for I'm looking under, I think it's the third page, reconstruction of lots 6 and 8. 6 was already done, correct?
No, both 6 and 8 are scheduled to be reconstructed this year.
What was the lot across from Isabella Bank next to George's office there?
That's lot 7.
Lot 7?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, we should come up with names for each parking lot. It'd probably be easier to remember.
But hopefully we get on those other 2 lots because they're in disarray.
Yeah, both of those are out for bid already. So we will be bringing bid recommendations to you at one of the upcoming 2 or 3 meetings, I believe.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Gillis?
Yeah, I have a question just on goal 2 and the streets that we're going to be redoing. The Franklin Street from Cherry to Maple. Is that the area that you were concerned about, George, or was it someplace else? Because didn't you mention Franklin Street? You were concerned about Franklin?
I saw that on there. I'm still concerned about it. And I don't understand it, but apparently it needs to be reconstructed. I guess that part you can do an overlay. Some you can do an overlay and the other part needs to be reconstructed or something.
That's exactly right. The part we can overlay is planned to still be done this year. The part that needs to be reconstructed, we have built into the capital improvement plan that will be coming forward to you in April to have that in one of the upcoming years to have that reconstruction take place.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and it's still near and dear to my. I mean, I've had so many people talk to me about.
And my question is, the Franklin Cherry to Maple, that is an overlay?
That's an overlay, yes.
And what portion of Franklin is total reconstruction?
I believe it's Maple to Illinois. Does it go further than that, Jason?
I don't recall without a map in front of me.
Okay.
I think that's the total of it, though.
South of downtown then? Right.
Just
Yeah.
north, yeah, just south of Sacred Heart there, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Wasn't Broadway done a few years ago on Franklin to the north? That was relayed, I believe. Might have been 3-4 years ago.
You're
Yeah,
saying
Broadway
Franklin
itself.
north of Broadway, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, we have scheduled Franklin that needs to be reconstructed. We have scheduled that into the upcoming capital improvement plan. So you will see that in the updated plan.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Good for the gander. Okay. Well, good. I guess then at this time, I suppose we can move closer to our tentative work session schedule. And I'll hand it over to Nancy again at this point to kind of go into what the possibility for the few upcoming meetings that we have kind of penciled in a few things. And then it looks like there's a decent list of items that could be there. And then from there, I think we'll go into the potential work session topics on things that have been sort of kicking around as goals for the last few years.
Yeah, and you're right. It's kind of a two-pronged discussion. The first one is we've put together a tentative work session schedule for you based on the things that we either know are going to be ready, and many of those come from our prior conversations we've had about some of those topics, or things at the bottom of that schedule that we expect will be ready for you in either the first half or the second half of the year. And so I included the presentations as well, just so you could have a feel for the upcoming presentations that are coming as well. But really what we wanted to focus on was what we have upcoming for work sessions between now and the end of May, to let you know what we see coming to you, and see if you have any feedback or concerns about the order of those. Some of the order can't really be changed based on when the time will be available, the data would be available, but we thought we would share it with you and see if you had any initial thoughts on that before we start talking about what other items might need to be added to work session.
George, go ahead, Commissioner Rowan.
You know, I looked at this with some interest. I'm, to be honest, I'm very concerned, significantly so. I would like to suggest we redo the whole work session model. I'd like to have every work, or at least we think about work sessions in terms of just economic development. So maybe we could have work session 1, 5, and 2, 3, and 4. And they could all be economic development 1, economic development 2, economic development 3, and economic development 4. And we look at all these different little pieces and what we're going to do for our local economy when COVID passes in July. I mean, we've had what, 5? I don't know how many restaurants we've had closed. We've got JCPenney gone. We've got all that retail down. I mean, I think we need a more focused approach where we take all these things and we say, hey, what we're going to focus on is economic development, and these are the pieces we're going to focus on to push economic development. I think we need better plans in place for July, to be honest. I think we need to, when the economy starts to open up, I think we need to have plans in place to push things forward. And this isn't, frankly, this just isn't going to get us there.
George, yeah, I appreciate the concern, and I think, you know, I saw in the work session draft, there is talking about, the possible street closure plans for Broadway. And then one of the topics that I brought up actually after a discussion I had with you is, talking with local businesses and things like that. And so I don't know if that addresses your total concern, but
Not even close. Not even close. So I would say, looking at item number 1, 2, 5, 12, 13, and the new item number 4, just lump those together. And then let's talk about different aspects of how we're going to stimulate what's going on.
When you say 1, 2, 5, and 13, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
About the items on the sheet here. We've got.
He's talking about the additional potential work session items.
Topic lists. I think, some of these, discussing them individually makes no sense. I don't care about a scooter rental program, to be honest. But if you tie it in with economic development and stimulating stuff downtown, and it's tied in with some other things, then it makes sense. And we have a package we're dealing with. We have some way we're visioning what's going to take place. But if you deal with them individually, so I'd like to see a more integrated work session focused, that's themed. But I'll be quiet. But that would be my argument, because dealing with these things piecemeal, I think we need to have a more comprehensive focus, at least until we get the economy. I don't know, I'm worried.
Yeah, I share your concern about the economy. Commissioner Tolis.
Agree with Commissioner Ronan on these work session topics, like item 3, dumpsters located in paved alleys. Really? We have to waste time on that? Or another one was scooter program, which I don't care too much about that. Mount Pleasant Center preferred development. We can't even discuss anything to develop here until we get clear title to this property. But as Commissioner Ronan said, we've already lost 6 restaurants in town, and we're going to lose more before this pandemic's done. So we got to start figuring something out, or you're going to have empty restaurants up and down the streets of Mount Pleasant here. We just lost Pizza Hut, Big Boy's gone, Italian Oven's gone, Crankers is gone, Ponderosa's gone, Bubble Tea's gone.
If I may jump in real quickly, some of these work sessions that I agree it's not as integrated as we would maybe like it to be, but some of the work sessions that we do have planned in the upcoming months or have suggested may help with some of that economic development stuff. For instance, the Oprah district policy, the owner occupied incentives, both of those help both residential and commercial as far as being able to redevelop and have an economic development piece to them. So those things are tentatively scheduled in. And but I appreciate the comment about wanting a comprehensive package. But I guess what we were trying to do was bring forward the ones that have previously been talked about that are ready to have something to move forward, is one comment I would make. And then secondly, when you start looking at the potential work session list, that is the longer list that has 13 items on it, plus 4 that were added. We have suggested that a number of those should just come off the list because they've been there for 4 years now. I don't think they necessarily contribute to economic development. I'm not sure that it's worth spending the time on them. So anything that wasn't highlighted, we had suggested would not be worthwhile for you to spend time in work session discussions on, and that we should instead talk about the ones that are highlighted, one of which is the new one that was added about the identifying local policies for post-pandemic. If that becomes the most important thing, then we can move that up in the list. But as a group, you haven't talked about that.
How about item 3 on that list? Revision of city ordinance to allow for chickens in residential areas. Is that a mistake or what?
Is that a priority?
That was something a commissioner brought up that said that they thought should be on the list.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
And was that just one commissioner?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because
I can remember 4 or 5 years ago when somebody was trying to raise pigeons in the city of Mount Pleasant. This is almost as ridiculous as that. Chickens in a residential area?
And I thought I heard you say if it was highlighted, it was a priority.
No, highlighted are the ones that either are ones we think you still need to talk about because we haven't had any discussion about them, and they may have some value as we go forward. But particularly those 4 that were added at the bottom, I didn't insert any judgment into those because I think those are ones that you guys as a group have not talked about. So I thought as a group you needed to talk about those. I did not insert judgment in those. But in the other 13, I inserted judgment about which ones I thought are likely worthwhile to come off the list and which ones might still be worthwhile to consider.
And I have a problem with something getting on the list with only one person that wanted it. Because I know I was interested in the ice skating rink, but
And
I
I
was,
put that on the list.
yeah, but I was told by you that I had to get other commissioners interested in that before it even got on the list, which, so, I think that's kind of.
I'd like to interrupt because I think there's a confusion about what's on the list and what's just listed as something that's, hey, we can talk about this, and if there's interest, we can move forward. If there's not interest, then we're going to drop it.
Yeah, well, I think the chicken could probably drop. Chicken in residential areas.
I think we've gotten a little bit disorganized in how we're talking about everything right now. And so like, I want to get to those items because I think they're important. But right now I want to focus primarily on our tentative schedule. And I know from George's comments and Pete's comments that maybe we should reshape some of those ideas into a more, comprehensive way to, look at economic development, look at how we're going to help our businesses. And so maybe that's something that we can do as a work session to look at. And I think that kind of includes a few things that are on the list later, like, I think, listening sessions with local businesses. I think the pedal trolley, the scooter rental, those are things that are kind of later in the list that might be somewhat included. There's also the Oprah district, which is probably very important. But before we get to saying, are we going to talk about this or not? Let's stay focused. So, Commissioner Roenick, go ahead.
So I guess I just like it integrated in the way of it. I've said that, but I don't understand the Oprah district in policy. I mean, are we talking about getting tax money from them? That's what we talked about last time. That these people have Oprahs, they're coming up for renewal, and we keep giving them their tax abatement. Are we?
No.
Is this talking about taking money from them and getting some money?
No, the Oprah was part of the recommendations from the downtown study that said to revitalize some of the sections of the downtown, it may be advantageous to create a district. And what an Oprah stands for is an obsolete property rehabilitation area. And so if we created an area that was an Oprah, those individuals have tax advantages and may help with economic development for redevelopment of those properties.
And I think that would be great to consider with some of these other things at the same time, but I apologize. I was thinking of, I'm getting my.
You were thinking of the pilots.
The pilot, yeah. I thought an Oprah thing would be great. Is there a specific property that do we need a whole work session? I mean.
Well, yeah, the recommendation from the downtown study was whether there were certain areas of the downtown area that should be identified as a district. And if so, what kind of policy would you want to have in place for what kinds of economic development would you be willing to give tax abatements for? So we needed to give you a draft policy to react to make sure that there was support for that before we started talking to potential property owners about redevelopment of that district. Because those are tax abatements.
And when can we have that policy to look at?
I was suggesting at your March 22nd meeting.
Okay, can we get it this week? I mean, is it already written? Can you just?
No. We're working on it and would have it ready in time for you to have it for the March 22nd meeting.
Can I, remind it? I know I'm being obsessive here. I apologize, Nancy, but so how long would it take for this? I'm familiar with Oprah. I apologize. I wasn't thinking clearly. So how long would it take for this to be implemented? Give me a timeline.
Once we decide on the district, we would have to implement an ordinance amendment to set the district, which takes 2 meetings, and then it goes into effect 30 days after that. So it can be done within 60 days of once the district is identified.
And have people identified districts?
I think the recommendation from the downtown study, I'm going from memory, was that it would be a major portion, if not all of the downtown. I would need to double check that. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was focused on downtown.
Perfect. Yeah, okay. I apologize for being so focused. Excuse me. But got it.
Yeah, I have a question, because isn't the Isabella Bank and Trust old building? Yeah.
Sorry. Is it related to George's comments?
Yes, it's about the Oprah.
Okay.
I like how some commissioners can talk, but thank you. Thanks for allowing me to talk.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep us focused instead of jumping.
Yeah, the building that's at the end of University and Broadway, the Isabella Bank and Trust building that Jim McBride's office is in, is that already considered an Oprah district, that one building?
I believe so, Commissioner Gillis. Bill, do you know for certain if that is? I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, we did create the Oprah district for that, but there was never an application for that. So the district's created. We just haven't had an application.
For that one building.
Well, it's several properties, but it's essentially that building. Correct.
Yeah. The one building that's owned by Isabella Bank and Trust, but there's other offices in there. I know the second and third floor is need of a lot of work. But understand, commissioners, when we do these districts, it's for people to then get tax abatements and monies through MEDC and elsewhere to refurbish their own properties that they have allowed to dilapidate. So these buildings that have not had any updates or any monies put into them and just allowed to deteriorate, now we as taxpayers or we as city commission will be asked to give them tax abatements so they can repair their own property. So if that's going to happen in all downtown, you can imagine how many properties are going to take advantage of not paying their taxes and ask for Oprah abatements. So my concern is losing tax dollars from valuable pieces of property that way.
And that's why the policy is so important, to make sure that there's certain parameters in the policy, just like we have for the brownfield policy, about what kinds of projects you're really willing to consider to give tax abatements for. So the two really have to go hand in hand, the policy and the district.
Okay. Commissioner Toles, I saw your hand up earlier, and I don't know if you still wanted to make a comment.
Oh, I took it down, but I just wanted to make one quick comment. Again, I agree with Commissioner Ronan and Commissioner Gillis. I think we have to streamline this and throw out the stuff that's been hanging in there for a while and get down to business, because I do think initially on the new topics, item 4, item 2, and item 1 should be addressed. You know, we did have a skating rink for years here, and I inquired about that, and I guess, well, we don't have enough money to buy another tarp, because the tarp's in bad shape to put another ice rink down. I mean, this is ridiculous. But I mean, 12 should come out of there, 13 should come out of there, 3 should come out of there, 7 should come out of there, and you know, let's get down to business. I mean, we got to start doing something here, people.
Yeah, can we just take them numerically down? I mean, after we get down through with the census of what's already on our work session plates, the 1 through 13, because there are some that already staff has advised that we take off the list. So I think that might be a good chunk to start on.
I'd sort of be okay with that, but I'd like to focus us, if it can't get us money by July, I don't want to talk about it. So if it can't get us something that's going to help when the post-pandemic is here, if it's not something that's going to benefit us at the end of at sometime this summer, when we want to stimulate the economy, I would argue that be the rubric. What can we do now for work sessions that's going to result in something that will have tangible for people when we want to rebuild this economy? So a skating rink is cool, chicken is cool, but I mean, that's not something that's going to stimulate the economy by July. And it's not a policy that's going to have an impact. So I'd like us to do that, go down here and then say, hey, is it something that we're going to be able to use right now to help the economy get going in July when this pandemic's over? So that would be my argument.
July is a timeline the pandemic's going to be over.
I think we're talking about the end of the summer. Look, we can argue about it, Laurie. My read is by the end of the summer is what people are talking about pretty much. Yes, I think close. I think we're going to have to do something to get our, it's just not going to happen without our initiative. It's my argument.
I think I want to interject because I think the point here is not necessarily when the pandemic's going to be over, but
I know that
there's a large, obviously, interest on the commission to do everything we can to help stimulate the economy. And so that, I think, if anything, is the message here tonight. And looking at sort of the list, there's the Oprah, there's the closure for Broadway, there's the scooter rental, pedal trolley, and then there's the local business roundtable that I think directly impact those sorts of things. You know, I'm supportive of some of the other things as well, but those seem to speak to me as the loudest things that, hey, those need to be a priority. Those are the things we want to talk about. George, you have your hand up still. I don't know if you had a comment or. You're muted, George.
Yeah, I didn't. I forgot to turn it on, but if you're giving me another chance. I also think, looking at the building inspection stuff, if you read the survey that was done by CMU that was sent to us a couple of weeks ago or whatever, one of the things that came up over and over again is that some of the landlords view, or some of the people who own the property, view some of the regulation as excessive. We've talked about some things like, hey, if your building is inspected once and it passes inspection, can we go 2 years without it having to be re-inspected? Then that generates money for these people who have these properties. It's less. So I think there's some other things on the list that I'd also add to that. But
yeah, please go list them.
Okay, great. So number 5, I think I'd like to I'd just like to pass it.
Okay.
I think number 2, I just think these are things that are going to give people some resources if we can streamline it, if we can sort of make it more reasonable. But
you do realize that's income for us. When we have rental inspections every year, that's income to the city. If we give all our building inspectors inspections to the county, we have just lost all that revenue.
I'm not arguing for whether we should do one or the other. I'm just saying it should be on a work. I don't want to discuss. I'm just saying it has implications. We may decide that maybe, Laurie, I'd probably support that. But I mean, I think it's something that could be relevant. That's all. I'm just identifying things that are relevant. I don't know. I'm not telling you I have the solution.
Well, I mean, does the commission as a group agree that stimulating the economy and doing whatever we need to do for economic development is the highest priority?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I was
Yes.
asking if we can implement number 4 on there to bring the business people in there and get some input from them of, you know, what can help them out right now? What can we do to help them out instead of having another 5 or 6 businesses closed down?
When you say 4, you're talking about the local listening sessions with local businesses?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we'll be open to all businesses, you know.
Because if in fact that's your number one priority, maybe what would be the best thing to do instead of trying to pick and choose and cherry pick these is we could give you a listing of the ones that we think would have a positive impact on that economy in the short term, lay out maybe some of the initial pros and cons of those, because there are certainly some cons to some of them that we need to be careful of when we go toward implementing them. So we could do that on the things that are identified, but I think you're right. The number 4 about hearing from the local businesses, I think that's a critical piece in the process. The challenge we have is typically when we talk to local businesses, they say the thing that can help them the most is cash. And as you know from our prior conversations, we're very limited in the amount of cash that we can direct. Well, we have no ability to give cash directly to businesses. We can do it through tax abatements. We can do it through waiving fees. We can do those kinds of things. But that's typically what they're looking for is cash. They're not looking necessarily for policies or programs unless there's cash tied to them. So I think that's very valuable. I just think it has to be framed appropriately so that you get good information about which programs and priorities you might want to move forward on. Yeah. And it's not something that comes together in 2 days to be able to appropriately frame those discussions.
Right.
No, I totally understand that, but we put it out there. We give the business owners an opportunity to come in and voice their opinions on, you know, what they'd like to see. It might be different than other than most people might not want cash. Maybe somebody wants something else, but you've given them that opportunity to come in and voice their opinion. You know, that's the only thing I'm saying. I don't know if most of the people are in agreement with that, but you know, I'd be in agreement with that to have them come in.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe a questionnaire. And I know we've tried to question or survey the downtown business owners and didn't get an overwhelming response.
Yeah.
But that might be an avenue rather than trying to recruit them to come and speak to us.
Yeah.
And if anybody's out there listening from downtown or even, you know, any business person in Mount Pleasant, you have some specific ideas. We have to acknowledge the fact that there is many grants. I don't know how many millions of dollars our governor just set aside for businesses. We got that in our end of the week email of so many of our local businesses getting $10,000 grants each. Of course, we don't have the cash flow. Thank you, taxpayers that came from Michigan taxpayers through our legislatures and through MMDC as a person who distributes it. But I do think that cash is the way to go, and we can't supply that. So my theory is we need people. We need people to come to Mount Pleasant. And if that means more designs for weekends on festivals, 8 weeks of summer, and have each weekend maybe a certain theme, made in Michigan. We already have a beer fest. We have usually 6 weeks on Thursday, 6 weeks through the summer, we have Max and Emily concerts. I'm not sure how that's going to hang in the balance of things, if they're going to be able to allow that again. But I know the influx of new people or people that are ready to get out and visit places and bring their monies with them and spend. One way is to get people in and spending their money. And sometimes festivals do that.
Yeah, the challenge right now is scheduling those, not knowing when we can have group sizes outside. And generally those take some pretty advanced notice to be able to pull those off.
I'd like to go back to what Petro said as well. I mean, I support having businesses in, but we also have business leaders in the community that get paid to do this, right? We have someone who runs the Chamber of Commerce. The university has LaBelle Center for Entrepreneurial Studies, the Small Business Association. I mean, these are all agencies that already exist who supposedly, at least, know something about this and know how to sort of know what would be useful. So while I agree, talk to business people, I think we should also be interacting with these professionals in the community who are tasked with doing these types of things. I don't know what the grants are that we're doing.
Right.
But we should get these people with us and have them. So I think it's more than, I agree with Petra, but I think it's more than just the business owners as well. It's people who know how to stimulate this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's also an important asset to those conversations, because, you know, they're experts, they're supposed experts, and they should have some ideas, you know. So we've got the Smart Zone, we've got, yeah, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chamber, MMDC, and others. We get even like the Home Builders Association, right? They've come to, we had a lot of discussions with them. What can we do to help? Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I agree with that too, with both your comments on that. I just think that we're on just a different level playing field right now. You go to Florida and other states, I got friends that are down there right now, said it's wide open. You know, people wear masks, they walk into a restaurant and the place is full. And I mean, it's just like business as usual. The whole problem is that's not happening in this state. And we got to come up with some type of solution. And I don't know where we're going to find the solution, you know, to try to help some of these businesses out. We're going to have to get every source, I guess we can, to come in and implement and have some type of brain trust and see if we can figure something out to try to help some of these people. Because I think we're going to have more closures. I really do in this community. And I just hate to see it, you know, because it's not good for the community, but we'll have to figure a solution out.
Well, you know, we could always find a monolith and put it right in downtown. Could we sign up on a list for that? Just joking, people.
It's supposed to be anonymous.
So this discussion has been helpful to have it focused on what we want to do. I guess I'm just not sure exactly what string to pull to bring this all together to satisfy you.
Nancy, would it be, I mean, George and Pete were talking about, you know, a more comprehensive sort of discussion, right? And so is it possible to, you know, look at all of these items and sort of, you know, I mean, the discussion with local businesses, that sort of has to happen before ideas come from there. But some of these other things, I mean, and there's always unintended things, right? Like I know the scooter rental and the pedal trolley, right? That's supposed to be a more involved discussion with like CMU and the township. Mm-hmm. And so there's sort of always like, oh, you know, it's not as easy as just say, yeah, do it, you know? Right. So, but there's got to be a way to somehow organize of things, maybe of like, what can we do in the timelines that we can do them in, maybe. And I don't want to like speak for George or Pete. And is that kind of what you guys are thinking? And might be helpful to hear from some other commissioners as well. But go ahead, George, if you got something to say.
I was just going to say, well, we've identified items that can go together, I think, items we want to look at on the list that are here. I think we got 5 or 6 of them. In terms of dealing with some of these other professionals in the community, I think we could just get a couple commissioners to sit down with them and talk about stuff and sort of do it sort of organically. You know, I don't know. I think that would work fine. My guess is somebody from the LaBelle Entrepreneurial Center and the Chamber and MDEC, I guess, or the Small Business Association get together with a couple commissioners, discuss what some of the things are, and we could start working with them to sort of put something together. I don't think that's that difficult. But maybe, again, I'm going to start this by saying this isn't my thing, right? I'm not an economist. I could ask my son. Yeah.
Well, I think part of the challenge is making the best use of your time and their time to make sure that whatever ideas come from that are coordinated together and are things that the city really can do. So that's what I'm trying to figure out is what's the most logical way to get all those ideas together from those other professionals, from what the businesses want, involve you and involve the staff who will have to implement it. And I don't see a simple way to do that, but we've got to start somewhere to try to
organize a couple retreats, a couple evenings, 2-hour segments, a couple nights during the week, and say, hey, everybody's invited to this. This is the theme. This is what we're going to do. Get the stakeholders together, and I don't. Maybe I'm viewing it as maybe I'm too naive about this, but you know, my guess is these people. That's what they do, right? That's what these people are interested in. I don't know, Petro. What do you think? We could get.
I agree with Commissioner Ronan. You know, that's what we ought to do. You know, just meet and have coffee at a restaurant or something, and get a group of 15, 20 people together for a couple hours and hash it over.
At least come up with some ideas. I'll be happy to fund it.
Well, it's not about that. It's about we're not supposed to have groups of people together face to face at this point in time for those kinds of discussions right now. So we'd have to do it virtually.
Well, you can still have
people going to restaurants. I mean, people aren't going to restaurants to eat, or I thought
you're limited to 6 people at a table and from 2 households.
What?
The current limits in restaurants are 6 people to a table, and it's recommended to only be 2 households that are represented at that table.
And, you know, to be honest, I haven't been in a restaurant.
So that's the challenge we're dealing with, is complying with all the public health orders, but yet trying to get all this input.
We'll have to organize a Zoom meeting with them, and we can mail them glasses of wine or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, we did talk about using a Zoom meeting, and then you can do breakout rooms and have smaller groups of people talk in the breakout rooms and then report back. So there's some logistical ways to do it.
Yeah, I do that at the university just about every day. Got it. What would it take us? A week to think about it? So a week to think about it and to put together a plan? Is that what we're thinking? Or?
Well, we already have a couple extra meetings next week, so we should at least put it for the week after that.
Well, we have time to develop the plan and then get the invites out. So it sounds like what we should be doing is putting together a plan of how we would invite people to a virtual meeting, who would be on that invite list, and then see what kind of notice we need to have for them. But we need to think of how to structure those questions for that virtual meeting.
Yeah.
I wonder also, would it make more sense to break out people in like certain corridors, like if it's like Broadway and Main downtown, like they have similar foot traffic and similar sort of characteristics of where their business is located? Or does it make more sense to like break out into people like, you know, let's talk with restaurant people, and then let's talk with people who are in the, you know, building and development, and then retail? I mean, does that make sense? I don't know. I kind of, that's where I kind of am leaning on, you know, maybe the expertise of Nancy or Bill or.
Yeah, Bill, you and Jim McBride talked about this briefly. Did you get into that kind of a level of detail about what might be most effective?
We didn't get into extreme specifics, but we did talk about the concept of having the organizations or the partners, as you've talked about, the SBDC and CMURC and MMDC, the city, et cetera, chamber, CBB, to get together and talk among ourselves about what programs or opportunities each of those organizations have, and then bring that to a larger discussion so that it's not so open-ended, so we can focus on things that are more grounded in what we can actually do, as opposed to, hey, we'd like to have, you know, these 8 things and only one of those we can legally do, or, you know, it might be feasible, right? So then if we had, and I'll just call it a list of the types of things that each organization can bring to the table, and then we solicit, we present that, and then we solicit from the folks that are participating, what are we missing? You know, are there some other things that would be useful? And then, you know, we can weed out the ones that we actually can make a dent on, and those things that are outside of our control, for instance. And that was what we had conceptually talked about, without any real detail, because we weren't quite sure as to where you all wanted to go with this.
Yeah, I emailed Jim over the weekend and called it an A team. You know,
I couldn't understand what you said, George.
I emailed Jim over the weekend and called it an A team. It would be nice to have an A team together. You know, a group of 12 people where we can sort of discuss that type of thing. I just want some commissioners on it, that's all. I'd also want some commissioners to attend that meeting with these people, so that we have some, I don't need to be one of them, whatever, but I mean, I'd also want, but that's a great idea.
So start out with the partners who have programs to offer and have them share what they are currently hearing from businesses about needs. So start at that level and then move to the business invite at a second.
Right, and what grants they have available, what funding they have available, what opportunities they have available. I think what Bill said, great, I'm with you.
Yeah, I you know, quite honestly, I think what you'll hear is, in terms of grants or cash that might be available, you know, it would come from the sources that MMDC has been working with, the state grants that have been made available, et cetera. So probably what you'll hear, but I don't, you know, obviously, you know, it'd be great to actually have the conversation, but would be the types of assistance, I'll just call it soft assistance, you know, how to write a business plan, how to do market research, those types of things. Typically is what many of our partners can bring to the table. But there may be some opportunities for some small startup grants or whatever. But you know, that would come out of the conversation, obviously.
But I guess that gets to my question. Is that something that all 7 of you want to be involved in, or do you want to create a smaller group of people for us to work with on that?
Don't all speak at once.
Talking too much here. I think I'd like to hear from other commissioners too, but I think 1 or 2 commissioners who are interested in this or something. You know, I mean, I don't think all 7 of us. I mean,
yeah.
You know,
I'll tell you, I'm very interested in this idea, and so, but I don't want to do it alone.
I'd be interested in it too, but Mayor, I'd like to see that we just open it up and not limit it to one certain business. Anybody in the community that's, you know, in the auto business or restaurant business or retail, open it up to all of them, you know, to come in and voice their opinion.
Yeah.
if you need someone else, I'm interested in as well, but you know, we're all busy and I understand.
Are the rest of you comfortable with a subcommittee of 3 doing that?
I am.
Okay. All right. You volunteered yourselves.
So I've got down Mayor Joseph, Commissioner Tolis, and Commissioner Ronan. And what we'll try to do is convene a meeting where we first invite the partners that are involved in economic development type activities to talk about what they have and what they're hearing, then structure some questions to invite businesses from throughout the community to come in to share their thoughts and ideas as a second stage. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. So does that mean everything else that was potentially on the list that's not economic development related takes a back seat for a few months?
I would agree with that.
I would agree with that also, that we, we can streamline this and remove some of the things Commissioner Ronan talked about, and like item 3 and item 12, item 13, and item, I think it was 7. And then maybe add item 4 on there.
Well, I think 12 and 13 do have economic development potential. Like I know the pedal trolley, and there's this guy who presented to us, and he sends me an email almost every month about, hey, where are you guys at on that? And I know Alma recently, like in the last few months, approved an ordinance for that. And so, I mean, that's not a make or break for the city, but I think it's important because that's a small business. That's something that's gonna, some people are gonna use. It's, I'll tell you one thing. My last conversation with President Davies, I asked him, what can the city do to help CMU? And one of the things he said is make Mount Pleasant cool. And I think that's a small piece of making, that's going to appeal to people who are younger, some older people for sure. I would probably do it. I'm 30. I'm sure my parents might do it. Maybe not. I don't know.
I just feel it's not a high priority thing. It's a novelty. They have it in other big university towns where, they have a bunch of people on there get drunk, and then you're driving those carts all through town, and, it's creating a little bit of a traffic problem and other problems. But I just don't think that's a high priority right now, as these other items are, to see if we can help our local business people out. That's
Sure.
not.
I can see that. Commissioner Ronan.
I also agree with Pete about that, because of the fact that I don't want to be taking business away from our current businesses. And so the bar owners downtown, do you think they're going to be appreciative of us saying we care about your business and we're trying to get you more customers? Yet we're going to have someone compete now in a pedal trolley right outside your front doors. So I don't want to encourage a lot of competitive. I'd rather try to focus on keeping the businesses that are still have their doors open, making sure they can still keep their doors open. And I don't really want to make competition for them. And as far as scooters, if anybody's gone to any university that has those scooters already, they have become a real problem with the use and drop effect. But that's a whole nother conversation. If we want to see scooters on every corner or leaned up against stop signs where people drop them off, to where now they're kind of rethinking those policies because of the blight that these are creating through the areas that they're being used. But I just want to quickly clarify, because I know we're coming past an hour. The paving for the alleys was a discussion because people's alleys were becoming so decrepit and of need of repair. And they have found that the dumpsters that are going up or the waste haulers that are going up and down the alleys are creating the potholes, and the way they come out of the alleys, they're taking the curb cut and rolling across the curb cuts and breaking them down, so that people that have paid for their alleys to be repaved, because there are people that have actually done that assessment, that then their waste haulers are ruining their alleys after they've paid for them to be refurbished or paved. So that's where that came about, because our alleys are in such bad repair. And most of that is because of the use of those heavy trucks going up and down those alleys. And some of those are dirt.
I think we understand that. I want to get back to what Manager Ridley talked about. Look, Manager Ridley, I'm not sophisticated enough, to be honest, to tell you what should be on the agenda and what shouldn't. I mean, I'm looking at some stuff here and it talks about millage stuff or review and discussion of, I mean, there's obviously some things that need to be on the work session, right? That are, I guess. So I think whatever you think is right in terms of the stuff we have to deal with on the work session, we have to deal with, right? I'm not, but if we could just have that economic development focus, that's all. Does that make sense? So I'm not trying to say take off the stuff that has to be done.
Yeah, and you're right. There's some things that we have to do. So we will keep those on the list. But I guess maybe it's self-preservation, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to be going down this economic development track where we spend all our time and energy on that. And we try to focus all your work sessions around economic development, and then have other commissioners saying, oh, but wait a second, I want to talk about X.
So can we vote on it?
That's not a work session. We don't vote on work sessions. We kind of give an idea.
Yeah, what do you mean exactly? Vote?
Can't do a straw ballot and say, hey, who's in support of this and who isn't?
We can get some general agreement about whether that's where you guys want to head. I just want some clear direction from you tonight, if that's where the majority of you really want to head, so that as additional requests come up to look at X instead of economic development, I can say, nope, that's not where the commission wanted to go.
I'm okay with that. I'll ask for other people to come in to say what they want.
One thing George said earlier. Oh.
Sorry. What time did we start this work session?
It was probably like 8:09, 8:10, something like that. So we're over an hour, but I think we're having a good discussion. We need to keep going. And I mean, it sounds like we're kind of getting to the end, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was policy is, do you know the policy, Will, that after an hour, we're supposed to kind of decide if we're going to go a little farther. So
I'm aware of the policy. Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to make a comment that early on, I thought I heard George say something about not focusing on economic development, but that didn't mean it had to be every week or every meeting, maybe once a month or something. Is that right, George?
I at the moment right now, I certainly can appreciate the levity or the gravity of, we want to talk about economic development. We would definitely want to like increase the chances of our existing businesses to thrive and grow that economic base. And I think that might mean different things to different people, right? I mean, there's certain items that are listed on like that first sheet that talks about, the neighborhood enterprise zone. That was something we had talked about, neighborhoods and preserving neighborhood values. And so does that, I think that's somewhat included, right? I mean, it could be pretty broad.
Yeah.
So, oh God.
I think the best we can do tonight is develop the meetings with the partners and with the businesses to get some more input. I think that's the best we can do this evening. and see what we hear from them about what really would be helpful to move forward in. Because it may be these things we have on our list, none of those are important to the businesses when we get right down to it. So it sounds like maybe we need to hear that first of all, and then see how these pieces that we have potentially on the list do or don't fit into their desires to be successful.
I think that's okay. It's important, but I also think as a commission, we made some decisions to focus on economic stuff and that the city should do that. So that the way we organize these items, I'm also thinking should be focused on economic development. So I don't think it's just that. I think there's things we can do as a commission to look at the items on here that could stimulate economic development, plus do this as well. So it's not an either or to me. Right, so it's both.
Okay. All right. Well, Nancy, it sounds like that's kind of where we're going to go. We're going to start talking about this group and talking about what we can do with these businesses. Is there any specific items you might need more direction on right now from the commission?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
We need some time to absorb the discussion.
Right. Okay. All right.
Well, can we decide not to decide and have everybody kind of give it some more thought? Maybe reach out to community member business partners and see if they have any input and try to go from there.
Our next meeting is, our next regular meeting, I should say, is March 8th. And right now we have scheduled to review and discuss CMU class report for owner occupied incentive program, which I think does fall into the economic development sort of ideas. And I guess at this point I'll say that, tentatively we'll keep that on there scheduled. But I'll kind of wait to see if Nancy has maybe if she thinks we need to go in a different direction for our next meeting, or continue this conversation and maybe narrow it down a little more.
I think that'd be great. Can we also add number 5 to that?
When you say number 5, you mean rental housing inspection?
Frequency based on good inspections.
And I think that's an example. Those things have opposite end results potentially. They're somewhat in conflict with each other.
So, well, the way I read Steve's report, and I just, you're going to have to explain that to me during the work session then, because I see it as directly related to what Steve found. So, I mean, we could have that discussion, but probably not tonight. I get it. I'll wait till the 8th.
Okay. All right. So I guess I would just ask, are we kind of happy with this direction? And Nancy, do you feel comfortable with moving ahead sort of with this input, or?
I think as comfortable as I'm going to get tonight, I think we're getting to diminishing returns.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it is 9:32, and so I will adjourn this meeting. Have a good night, everybody.
Right. Hello. Yeah.